I don't know that Britain could come back. I don't know that France could come back. They have these left-wing governments that appease, that are weak. They continue to have their borders open. If you listen to what these people are saying, the radical Islamists, they want to destroy the West. If you listen to their scholars and read their scholars as I have, this is revolution by immigration. They see the West as weak. They see these parliamentary systems. They see our Republican system as poised for defeat. And they have no belief in democracy or republicanism. That's why Israel is the only democracy in the entire Middle East.
2 years ago, today, the Jewish world got a punch in the gut like nothing before. And the rest of the world watched in sheer disgust and fear of what happened on October 7. The world has never seen such barbarism, such savage, hideous crimes against human beings since the Holocaust, even worse than the Holocaust. The rape, the beheading, the decapitations, the kidnapping, the disruption of life in Gaza that day, killing over 1,200 innocent civilians by the bloodthirsty death cult Hamas. The world was in shock, but that shock lasted only 24 hours. And then the world turned on us, and all of a sudden, Israel is now the aggressor, and the world has sided with Hamas. Well, let's listen on the second anniversary of October 7 to Mark Levin to see his take. And then we'll discuss it afterwards. Please subscribe to our channel so a little bit of light will push away a lot of darkness.
You're looking live at mourners gather at the site of Hamas' brutal massacre on the Nova Music Festival 2 years ago during the horrific October the 7th attack in Israel, where over 1,200 were murdered.
And despite Israel agreeing to a peace deal, all 20 points that would end the war in Gaza, thousands across the globe are protesting Israel, the Jewish state.
Mark Levin is the host of Life, Liberty, and Levin, and he joins us now. Mark, thank you for being with us. I know it's a tough day for everyone around the world, or should be at least, but especially for you, because Israel holds a special place in your heart. I'm so sorry for what went on and for all of our Jewish friends. But now we're finding out within our lifetime, and National Students for Justice in Palestine, these two groups are organizing rallies, Mark. Here in New York City, there's going to be one in Sydney at the Opera House. What's your reaction? Anti-Israel protests.
My reaction is this. In 1964, a great man, thinker, wrote a book called The Suicide of the West. You're watching the suicide of the West. World War II, we fought the fascists, Hitler, Tojo, Mussolini. The Cold War, we've been fighting the communists, and now there's a fusion of the communist Marxists and the Islamists. And the West is not capable of dealing with it internally. The president talks about the enemy within. He's ridiculed and he's correct. Europe is all but gone. I don't know that Britain could come back. I don't know that France could come back. They have these left-wing governments that appease, that are weak. They continue to have their borders open. If you listen to what these people are saying, the radical Islamists, they want to destroy the West. If you listen to their scholars and read their scholars as I have, this is revolution by immigration. They see the West as weak. They see these parliamentary systems. They see our Republican system as poised for defeat, and they have no belief in democracy or republicanism. That's why Israel is the only democracy in the entire Middle East. Hundreds of millions of Arabs and Muslims, and there's one democracy, and it's called Israel. And all of the attacks are on Israel, all the propaganda is against Israel, all the Western media is against Israel, most of the Western politicians are against Israel, and we're told that Israel has a PR problem because it's Netanyahu. Israel doesn't have a PR problem. Netanyahu's the Churchill who's standing up to this. The West is weak. Our media are weak. Our politicians are weak. Some of them have been bought off. Some of them have just appeased. Some of them see votes in what is this new influx of immigrants and so forth. this is what you see. You would not have seen this 10 years ago, 20 years ago in the United States of America. 2 years after 1,200 innocent young human beings were slaughtered, raped, butchered, videotaped in the greatest attack since the Holocaust on Israel. 9/11 was the greatest attack on America since World War II and Pearl Harbor. Who did it? The same Islamists hit us on 9/11 as hit Israel on October 7th. And whose fault is it? Israel's fault? I mean, this shows you a sickness and a weakness in the West. And it is very important that we get the hostages out. But it's also important that Hamas is destroyed, because they will come back again. It is an ideology that doesn't die. This is out of the 7th century. These are primitives. These are barbarians. It is a bloodlust. The more torture, the more starvation, the more people they kill, the happier they are, the more successful they are. That's the ideology. The West doesn't understand the ideology, or people in the West don't want to deal with it. Our diplomats, for the most part, don't understand the ideology. They're looking, I need a deal today, I need a deal next month, I need a deal this. That's fine. But if Hamas comes out and survives after all of this, then they've won. And that's the way they view it. And unfortunately, I agree with that. Now, let us look at this. The fact of the matter is you have 1,152 Israeli soldiers that have died in this war. That's the equivalent of 40,000 American soldiers. There would be less IDF deaths if the IDF and Netanyahu and Israel were, as the Western media say, that is, just seeking genocide. That war in Gaza would be over in less than a month if the Israelis used the firepower they have in Gaza. But it doesn't matter. We still have news sites, including Israeli news sites, American news sites, who continue to talk about the casualty numbers that are fed to them from Hamas. No matter how many experts from the Wharton School and others say it's not possible what they're talking about, the death of children and the death of women. It doesn't matter. They keep pushing it because they push an agenda. It doesn't matter that the New York Times used phony photos on the front page of its newspaper. You know, during the Holocaust, we had black and white films, largely thanks to Eisenhower, who said, I want you to get your TV crews in there, and I want these so people see what happened. We have film after film after film. People can see it online. You don't have that in Gaza. Instead, you have phony pictures. Instead, you have propaganda coming from Hamas that uses its hospitals, its mosques, that slaughters its own people. I mean, truthfully, we have 250 hostages taken. It's crucial that we get back those who are alive and the bodies of those who have been killed, because in the Jewish faith, it is important to get the body back. There's a belief in the Jewish faith that the body and earth, in many ways, are one. That's why it's crucially important. But that said, you now have, and I'm looking at the updated number again, 1,152 Israeli soldiers who have died. These are citizen soldiers, 40% of whom are under the age of 21. That's the equivalent in the United States. It's a nation of 9 million people, of 35,000 to 40,000 soldiers. And I would ask my fellow Americans this question. If the drug cartels came across our border in Texas and slaughtered 35,000 to 40,000 people in 5 hours, took pictures of it, took movies of it, the raping, the pillaging, the decapitating of babies, and then on the way out, they grab another 10,000 as hostages and secrete them somewhere in Mexico. What the hell would we do about that? Would we say 2 years is too long? Would we care what the international press has to say? Would we care what these Islamist imams in Dearborn, Michigan have to say? Would we care? No. You have an Israeli army that has their enemy finally surrounded after being pulled back by the Biden administration. You've had these spurts and starts on negotiations, mostly as a result of the international community. They've now surrounded the enemy in the city of Gaza. And what are they told to do? When Berlin was surrounded, what did we do? What did we do during World War II? When the Japanese wouldn't surrender unconditionally, we didn't continue to negotiate with them, did we? We had to destroy them. You can't win a war if you don't destroy the enemy. We talk about forever wars. Well, they'd like to end it. Hamas is surrounded, and Hamas is now negotiating. Negotiating for what? Effectively, it's survival. The Israelis could finish them off. People say, this got to get over. The pictures are too much. The PR is bad. This is why I don't think we could win World War II today with the kind of people in diplomacy around the West and so forth. They'd be showing the pictures of Dresden. They'd be showing the pictures of the Battle of the Bulge, how horrific it was. They'd be talking about all the civilian deaths and so forth and so on. I don't think we could win World War II today with the psychology and the mentality. And here's the thing. We're not losing anybody. We're here in the United States observing what's taking place. And we're saying, this can't go on much longer. Shouldn't the Israelis decide what needs to be done to survive? They are surrounded. This is a tiny country the size of New Jersey with a population of a small to mid-sized state in the United States. They've defeated Hezbollah. They're trying to defeat Hamas. They've defeated Iran primarily. They're still fighting the Houthis. A tiny country surrounded by hundreds of millions of people, by 27 countries that are supported by the Russians and the communist Chinese. They are the David against the Goliath. And yet look how the propaganda has worked. The West, I hate to say it, but it's a wake-up call. The West is dying right now in front of your eyes.
Yeah, you see London, you see Paris, you see what's going on in both those countries. That's our future, you believe, in 5 years. And I hear you, especially when what we're about to do, who we're about to elect as mayor in New York City, and what we've seen go on over in Michigan. Al Jazeera is telling Arabic, said the meeting in the Red Sea Resort is so far very positive. They got the 20-point plan that Trump put out there. They're working through it. They're working on logistics of getting the hostages out. 20 plus are supposed to be alive. Number one, do you think it's a good thing if this plan is followed through on, and what do you expect to see happen?
First of all, we have a great president who's trying to do something about this. Unlike Biden, who is undermining Israel and basically giving aid and comfort to Iran and funding Iran, we have a president who's trying to bring this to resolution. There will not be an eternal peace. The Bible talks about the battle of good and evil. It is a forever battle, and it will be a forever battle. But that said, if the president can pull this off, it'll be absolutely remarkable and absolutely wonderful, assuming that the Israelis aren't giving too much. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if Hamas survives, that's giving an awful lot. But it's up to the Israelis. And if the Israelis agree to this plan, and they do, who am I to say it's not good for their government? That's their elected government and so forth. All I'm doing is trying to warn our audience and the people, the dark clouds, they're there. They're getting darker and darker. You asked me, Brian, how could it be on this day that people are literally protesting on behalf of the terrorists and against a small democracy and the Jews? And it's in every capital in the West. It's in our own country in New York, and it is a poison. It is a gut cancer, and it is spreading. The only one who's fighting this in the West is Donald Trump. He's trying to fight the anti-Semitism. He's trying to deal with these colleges and universities. He's trying to look at the funding sources. He's trying to do these things to try and prevent the United States from becoming Britain and France and these other what are becoming failed countries. No country survives in perpetuity. Where's Athens? Where's Rome? In fact, ironically, the only people who have survived so far are the Jews. They defeated the Persians, the Babylonians, the Persians. They out-survived them, I should say. They out-survived the Romans. They out-survived the Third Reich. They will survive this too. But this is why these are warrior people. They come out of the cafes. They come out of the law offices. They come out of their taxis because they know this isn't a battle. This is survival. And that's what it is. So I personally want to thank President Trump, who understands all this, who keeps reminding people, remember October 7th, even against some of his advisors and some of the diplomats and these Western leaders who talk about a two-state solution. They're destroying their own countries, and yet they're telling Israel what Israel needs to do. Israel's best policy is to ignore them, and that's what it's trying to do. And Israel's best friend is Donald Trump. I'm telling you now, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, if it had been Kamala Harris, or somebody like that, Israel will be in much, much more dire consequences. As a matter of fact, the United States would be in much, much more dire consequences. The border would still be open. We'd still be importing these people and other people into the country who refuse to assimilate into our society. These are people, you know, Donald Trump uses this phrase, the enemy within. You know who else used that phrase? Great men of the past. Abraham Lincoln talked about the enemy within. When you have an enemy within, and you say we have an enemy within, our press starts attacking you as some kind of a fascist. There is an enemy within. The Democrat Party has changed. It's not just policy disputes. They seek to overthrow the republic. They seek to destroy our economic system. They want to change the citizenry and the population. They want to bankrupt the country. These are not policy disputes anymore with the Democrat Party. These are fundamental battles over the survivability of the United States. Trump gets it, 100%, and he's trying to do the best he can in our country, in the Middle East, and with Europe.
Well said. We're going to catch you this weekend, 8 o'clock. Life, Liberty, and Levin.
Thanks, Mark.
This was an amazing presentation. We're so grateful to Mr. Mark Levin for really succeedingly just laying it out the way it is. Let's think about it and let's process the information. We're dealing with a death cult that stuck in the 7th and 8th century. It's hard for us in the 21st century to really wrap our brains around it. We cannot understand the type of theology, mentality of what could possibly drive a human being to behead little children, to rape indiscriminately, to take a group of people together as they did on October 7th, tie them up and light them on fire, put the babies in ovens. We just can't, our brains are incapable of understanding that. But yet, October 7th, worst day marked in modern history since the Holocaust. October 8th, the world begins siding with these terrorists. Isn't that absurd? Literally siding with the terrorists who committed this act. But it's very important. Many people are more visual, or many people need the help of imagination. And as Mr. Mark Levin put it down, let's just kind of imagine if, God forbid, in a million years this should have never happened, but if this would have happened here in America. I live in San Diego. I'm bordering with Mexico, San Ysidro. Drug cartels everywhere. Imagine if drug cartels would have invaded San Diego. They would have overtaken the border, came in from Tijuana into San Ysidro, into America, and killed equivalent to what 1,200 in Israel population, in equivalent to America would be like 30,000 people. Imagine if they would have murdered 30,000 people from the border of San Ysidro all the way up to where I live. And then they grabbed another 10,000 hostages and kept them in the tunnels of Mexico. Could you imagine what Washington would have done, what America would have done to Mexico? Just think of it for a second. Why is it different with Israel? This is exactly what happened to Israel. Those 1,200 innocent civilians that were targeted, mutilated, beheaded, crushed, burnt, stabbed, murdered, shot, just any type of death that our worst horrors, nightmares could ever imagine of, happened that day. And then 250 taken hostage, innocent live people, mothers and babies. That picture of two beautiful Bebas kids, the redheads, clinging to life by their mother. How could you erase that image from your face? And what did they do? And you are siding with the abductors, with the murderers, with the terrorists, with these monsters, with these subhuman beings? Where's your humanity? If this was your children, how would you react? If this was your cousin, your neighbor, how would you react? We need to personalize it, because otherwise you get too detached from it and you begin sliding and drinking the Kool-Aid of the propaganda of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel. But the reality, what happened on October 7th, 2 years ago, is an atrocity that should have never, ever occurred. The 21st century world should not tolerate such actions, should not tolerate such a carnage and such devastation to innocent civilians. I challenge you, in the 77 years that Israel has been in existence, can you find me one time that Israel targeted civilians? Ever? In its 77 years of being a country, has it ever targeted civilians? Israel does everything and anything possible to prevent civilian casualties, collateral damage. In this war, in the last 2 years, even the great generals at West Point are standing in awe. But of course, the public media doesn't talk about this. They're in awe of how little casualties among civilians during time of such urban warfare. It's unrecorded in history with the ratio of how many deaths of civilians compared to combatants. And that is because Israel has taken painstakingly precision operations to prevent as many civilian damage, casualties as possible, versus the Hamas, booby-trapped buildings, hospitals, mosques. They used the Gazans as human shields. They didn't dress in army uniforms. They dressed in civilian clothes so that Israel should take out as many civilians as possible. Over the 77 years, let's talk about the hijacking of the airplanes of civilians. Let's talk about the blowing up pizzerias, Sbarro Pizza in the streets of Jerusalem. Let's talk about the cafes that are being blown up, the buses that are being blown up by suicide bombers, the ramming into bus stops, shooting randomly on pedestrian cars, as they're just recently when they were going to the hospital and killed a pregnant mother on the way to the hospital to give birth. Targeting civilians, that's what they do. And you want to side with them? We are slipping backwards instead of moving forward. And as he said, President Donald J. Trump and his administration is trying to stop the bleeding. This must stop. This isn't the America that we worked so hard to get. This isn't the America that our founding fathers had in mind, the land of the free. This is America that we don't side with death cults. This is America that we need to side with those who are bent on life, on the living, for the living. 1960, President Kennedy said it on July 20. Ask not what America could do for you, but what you can do for America. Think about it. The America that we have today didn't come easy. It came through blood, sweat, tears, and wars, so that we can maintain an even-headed mind looking forward in progressing towards the 21st century, not regressing and going back to one-to-one combat with the hate, with the anti-Semitism, and siding with death cults, with terrorism. This is not America. This is not France. This is not England. It's not what the founding fathers of Australia and Canada, I believe, had in mind. Why are they drinking the Kool-Aid of the legacy media and the fake media, the myths, the lies that have been fed? We're smarter than that. We have greater resources nowadays to be able to be truth seekers and fact finders instead of believing the lies and the myths that are fed to you. So I certainly hope that you wake up tomorrow morning a different person, and you realize that this America is worth saving, and not letting it become another France, England, or Canada, where it's going to be overridden with racism, bigotry, hatred, as what's happening now. Let's pray, and we hope that we can save America and not become another statistic of history. God bless you. God loves you.